The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent. All right. Can you all hear me? Shalom, 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 salama, tiyemi, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. Oh, thank you. Shout out to Brother Yacoba. He was bringing that about. I'm telling you, a lot of our people are, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And the trouble is really, it's our heart. It's our heart. If you want to have a heart of Yahusha, which is our example, forgiveness is key. It really is. If you didn't know, this is what this ministry is all about, or this channel. This channel is what it's about. I tend to defer from calling this channel a ministry. This is a channel. It's a public outreach channel, PSA. Excuse me. I may have a lot of a lot of those pauses and interruptions. Excuse me. I'm still about definitely 80%. Yesterday you all missed me. I really do not take any days off, especially on my Monday through Thursday, unless I am sick. And sick to the point where I can't even get out of my bed sick. And that's where I was at on Wednesday. Went to the emergency room on Tuesday. got tested, so I do have the flu. And part of the thumbnail is that that's what's going on here around the nation. A very big surge in the flu. However, you're not going to see a lot of these stories with the CDC due to the funding, nor will you see anything else go on from there. To be quite honest, this economy, this nation cannot handle these types of stories, because in this world, in this system of make believe, everything and everybody's winning if you are one of those that's winning. And again, in the system, the winners and the losers are predetermined because they know what our social securities are coded for. So the reality is, when you understand that everything, they're coming in ebbs and flows, I look at it like this. Okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. The only reason I had to go was because obviously I work, and with me working, I have to get documentation to let people know that I'm legitimately sick. That's it. But I already knew what I needed to have, and that was just rest. Because I overdo a lot of things. People that know what I do in the background, that understand what I do in the background, I work from sunup to sundown, or before sunup and after sundown, for real. So there's a lot that goes on. In my body, you just wear it down, especially in this time. Especially in a time where I'm trying to work up these funds for Ghana to do the land acquisition and other things to help support the community in emergency relief efforts. So there's a lot of things that are occurring. And yes, I do have my vitamin C. I do that. You're just, look, I know it's hard for people to fathom this. I'm around a bunch of sick people all day long. They're called eighth graders. That I know that's hard to imagine. It's hard to handle. I'm around sick teenagers all day long. And for me to come down with the sickness in February, I think my body has done a very good job of its immunity. I think I believe it has. I'm pretty good, considering that most teachers have been out, weeks upon weeks being sick. This is the only time I fell. And they knew, even my principal knew. It's like, look, I was in the little morning meeting on Tuesday, even taking notes as I'm dozing off, but I still took notes. That's just how I am. So, I don't, trust me, I go through all that, but you get to a point where there's a lot of stress that you deal with, and you're in a petri dish. And trust me, I have my Lysol, I have my Lysol wipes, I have my little the little hand sanitizer. I got all that. I drink plenty of teas. I got all that. It's just you're gonna go down every once in a while. That's your body, especially in today's age, where, in my personal opinion, I believe that they are manufacturing a lot of these viral strains, because these are part of these components that they have done to engineer things. And again, it's not, and I look at it like this, it's not my population group that they're looking at. Pretty soon it will be. However, what they're doing is they're looking at the most vulnerable. So when I come down with this type of sickness, The only thing I can think of is what does that do in affecting my mom and my dad? That's in their almost approaching mid-70s. What does that do for them if they're not able to recover? My dad never got the lollipop. My mom got the lollipop. And when she realized everything and saw what I was saying and prayed and, some people at the church, that's how modern day Christians are. When you're talking to them like, hey, you need to pray. And then when the Holy Spirit reveals, they don't like to say that. They're like, well, someone at the church said, we all have encountered that. This is a viral strain that it's going to affect the older populations. And the reason I say that, you see now Mitch McConnell's going down. And Mitch McConnell actually exemplifies everything that you see in that older population group because of the amount of body deterioration that he's had. And you can see that with a lot of the other mental neurological deficits that he's had. And he is still in Congress. I have no idea, but we all know. And we all know the extent of the corruption that is being shown all throughout this nation. So without any further ado, I want to bring on up my guests or panel for those that came on in. Shalom, Brother Fast Nickel. Thank you.
Shalom.
Oh, so
I came on today. I don't necessarily know if I have a lot to offer, but I came on because you were so sick. I thought you might need some support, but you sound like 180-degree different energy today than you did 2 days ago.
Well, yeah. And honestly, yes, I needed to take that time off. The only thing is I know that everything kind of moved down into my chest a little bit, but that's all kind of clearing on out. It's they have me on the Tamiflu, and once you get on Tamiflu, you're gonna feel bad for like the next 2 days, and then it's a roller coaster. But had all that, got the lemon balm, got the concentrated ginger, echinacea, elderberry, garlic. What else do I have? Colloidal silver, black seed oil. I'm taking all that. Mullein to get all the phlegm. It's so I'm just up and about. I hadn't taken my teas just yet. That's the only issue. But I took everything else. I should be okay.
Let me ask you a question. When I was down in Miami, I used to go drive up towards little north of Sunrise to purchase a guy. I used to get colloidal silver from him. So it's been hard since I moved up to Orlando. Where do you get yours from?
So I think colloidal silver is probably something that's going to be a little bit harder. The last time I got colloidal silver was last year. And remember, the silver market didn't take such a drastic turn because a lot of the colloidal silvers and everything else, those are all byproducts. Those are all byproduct metals. So in where I'm at down the street from me, they have a place called like NutriSmart. So that's it's like a holistic place where you get your vitamins, your groceries. It's a lot more. It's smaller, but it's a lot more healthier than what you would get at like Sprouts. Gotcha. So yeah,
I used to get it from a guy who used to make it in his garage.
Yeah.
And, it's funny when you look at the water. It just looks like regular water, but when you put the blue light, you can see the little specks of, you can see the silver.
Uh-huh.
But when I lived in Miami, that and black seed oil, the only two things I ever needed, because basically you take those two things, you'll never get sick because they kill any kind of virus in you.
Oh yeah, they absolutely do. I just think that over the last couple of years, these viral strains and infections, they've been perfected because at the end of the day, like I stated, at the end of the day, you have a it's an inverted pyramid, and a Ponzi scheme cannot work on an inverted pyramid where the top is an older population group that's literally more than your bottom level of the pyramid. It all collapses. So right now, as I'm glad you're on here, Brother Fast Nickel, because you're now seeing really the age of a collapse happening. And I wanted to share this. Let me find a better share friendly article. Let me put this in here. This is from Yahoo Finance. There we go. Let me share this screen. All right, so I want to go ahead. I'm going to read this right here. This is from Reuters. You all can see that. Vance says U.S. will establish price floor system for critical minerals. This was as of Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. Vice President J.D. Vance told a meeting of I think they meant more than 50 countries. The spell check is horrible. On Wednesday, aimed at boosting access to critical minerals, that the U.S. will establish a system creating price floors for the commodities. Vance said the United States was proposing a trading bloc for critical minerals, and many countries had already signed on to the plan. Many countries, okay. And I guess this is taking it from the Canadian press. The U.S. wants to create a critical minerals trading bloc with its allies to counter China. Keyword to counter China. Okay, so Brother Fastnick, yes. Remember what we were talking about as this was beginning to collapse. Okay. And it was funny. I was on the phone with my cousin last night, and I was saying this even before I read and saw this article this morning. I said, when you didn't see the collapse of prices of silver in China, but you saw the collapses of prices of silver in the West, particularly here in the United States. I said, that's the first sign of a decoupling. That's a divergence. That's a decoupling. Lo and behold, not even a week after they started, crashing the metals, now they want to have a critical minerals trading bloc. What is that critical minerals trading bloc depending on? Access to the African continent that they're losing, that they've lost. Understand, it's no mistake that they were trying to get rid of Traore, and understand Russian intelligence services and let me tell you, they don't like to. Okay, I'm just going to give things to you in my my understanding, my knowledge, my personal experience. You never want to give up any type of information, especially if you are sharing that information with another country, because what that country will always do, they'll ask the questions: how'd you come across that information? What was the source? How viable is that source? How close are they to, excuse me, to that particular source? What does that mean for them? They're trying to be safe. They're wanting to be safe. That's understandable, quite understandable. And so now with what Russia was saying, and a lot of this, you can now have plausible deniability, because obviously Burkina Faso did their own investigation with Damiba, and having Damiba, spill the beans, whether or not that, whatever the altruistic nature or lack thereof, if they're trying to be, all helpful for whatever intents and purposes. I do not, Russia's not a fair actor either, so don't worry about that one. But who they were saying was involved in these assassination attempts, these coup attempts, and that it came from the top, from Macron himself, that's a very big deal. That's a very big allegation, because then what that means is then Russia has to respond to, well, who is that source that you're going to have to burn? If you're putting out this allegation, that means that somebody close to the top is going to then have to divulge themselves. So whoever they were, whatever they were doing, they're obviously, hey, they either got fired, they either resigned, they did this or that, and they probably moved, got an alias, and blah, blah, blah. Because why? Because that person, that asset, now had to be recalled. And that is a very big deal, especially if you're talking about the Russians, and the Russians having to then take out their asset. Not like take them out, but they had to get them out of play. So what that also means to the West is that now there's a bigger implication to, if what we're doing now has a lot more oversight, or I wouldn't say oversight, but there are eyes on this. Because why? Because everything that had been basically stated before by these countries, what we knew and we understood, and now you have a literal superpower that has just as high level of a intelligence apparatus, that you would have of the level of the United States and of China, verifying this and validating this, then there's a problem. Also, keep in mind, Nigeria had just began to host a contingent of, they would say, quote unquote, U.S. military advisors to operate Boko Haram, or to counter Boko Haram. Excuse me, Freudian slip. So now understand how things are about to become operationalized. And you hit someone over here, but you got to go cross border and you can hit over there. You see how this game works? You see how this thing spreads? But here's the reality of this. Black folks knew all this. We've known this from the jump. We realized all this. Please save our nation. No, we're sitting this on out. Why? Because we know that there are always our people that's going to sell us on out no matter what we do. That's the inevitable nature. So the way to actually win the game is that we say, you know what? We leave it alone. Father Yah, take care of it for us. You know, the first piece that we did is that we began to set out. The second piece is that we just now have to finally cry out to the Most High, because they are already telling you what they're going to do in this next iteration. So we're doing what we have been programmed to do in how literally the Most High has prophetically said we're going to do. We're running in. We're shutting things down. We need you all to come on out here and protest. They're going to come for you. They're going to come for you. And then we've been asking them the nice, poignant questions that they don't have answers for and that they get heavily offended about. And then we ask, so when have they not come for us? Because we can go over example and example and example of the times that they've been coming for us. And then they get mad and they say, fine. And then they continue to ask and they continue to ask because, again, their thought process is, we got to get you on out of here. We got to get you to be the punching bags, the sacrifice. And now, with our decision to basically lay low and to leave things alone, do you know that that has been the most harrowing tale of action via inaction that they would have never suspected from us? Shalom, Brother Richard. What say you, Brother Richard? You've been in the chat this week. You had a lot to say, Brother Richard. So here you go. Come on in here, download. I know you had your script ready.
No, it's just I just wanted to get into the picnic. There's so many things coming against us, so many different ways. The issue you talked about earlier with the seniors is kind of hits home because I'm seeing my peers. You know, I'm of that boomer generation, and a lot of my peers are leaving up out of here with their money, their pensions, and things like that. At this point, we're in legacy mode, and we're supporting a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of families, organizations, and things like that. And it seems like they're really trying to get us up out of here. Because this younger generation, they really don't have any money. I mean, I was a youth pastor for years, as you know, and it's hard for this generation, the younger generations in your classroom, to get traction, to get any jobs. I mean, the system has been exposed as totally illegitimate, and I'm trying to teach them to be entrepreneurs, and get things, or you have tools and things like you. But at the same time, in Babylon, if it's going on, you got to have your exit strategy together. So it's really difficult to uh, to work together. I guess the Most High was telling me, Ubuntu. We got to have Ubuntu until we get out of here and operate as a nation, even though we're in the land of our captivity, to get us through this period until we can all exit out of here.
Yeah, honestly, absolutely. It here's the thing. if we don't come together now, we're not going to survive. And the reality is this: the Most High has always given us the choice in this whole Exodus thing. He always has. Now, the reality is there's always a remnant. There's always a remnant. The last time, it was because, to be quite honest, a lot of our people still knew that we're Israelites. We were just in a very contained manner. This go around, we're not. This go around is that there has to be, and I know that people don't like this. They may not really like how this thing goes, but there's going to be a calling period. Look, everybody is fair game, myself included. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I pray that I make it. I pray that I don't die in Babylon. I pray that my actions are pure. I pray that my heart is acceptable in front of the Most High. I pray that people understand and have the level of transparency that they see my actions. They know who I am behind the scenes. They see what I do behind the scenes. You know, the heart that I have. This isn't fakery. This is me. The only thing that I can't do, I can't put everything that I like to do out in front, because why? Because you see everything that they're monitoring. For those that were there in the Q2A live stream last week, they were big mad. The YT community came on out. They were big mad. You don't think that they're paying attention to this? To have an invite of 60 plus acres of land for us to develop. That's and again, that's the first initial that's the first initial thing. No, you have to develop things before you can ask for things. It's a give and take.
Really, it's funny about, it's not funny, it's serious that we came here, we were the capital that built this country. Now we have difficult getting capital for our projects and things that we want to do. I saw a stream, I've been unable to confirm it independently. Is that true that Burkina Faso has a citizenship offer out starting in March or something like that? Have you seen that?
I was in on the ADDI live stream, or it was a Zoom meeting that they had last Saturday. It was last Saturday. I was listening in on that. There's still a lot of things going on. It's still very preliminary. Okay. So again, I'm not going to confirm that. I am not the source of that. If you want to know, that's ADDI. So you all know that we do have a relationship with ADDI. That is ADDI's business. I will gladly have you all go to addi.org, and you go to addi.org and you sign on up for those for that. Okay. And I say that simply because, you know, I don't want to overspeak. Okay. That's not my place. That's not my organization. All right. So you can go there and get the latest. And I'm sure they would appreciate that you are being sent over there to get the latest.
Okay.
What I'm responsible for is I'm responsible for making sure that we can ship containers to the continent. I'm responsible for making sure that we can acquire land to build hospitals. Okay. Anything else, I look at it like this, and I tell you, there's a formula. There's a formula to this, and I've explained that formula within Q2A, within Region 6. And I'm not going to go over that formula here, not on Covenant Awakenings, not in these spaces. Because why? Because I don't want to have people come through and mess with our formula. That's stupid. But all I can say is this: when we do things, when you produce things, guess what? People tend to have doors opened. Goodwill supports good actions. And we support one another through goodwill. We may not get the attaboy pat on the back, but guess what? If what we do helps to support the overall, then you know what? Thank you.
Well, you're demonstrating live faith. Just bringing it biblically, faith without works is dead. And there's some things having demonstrated that. And you move one container. At some point, I want you to have the mechanism for moving container, because I'd like to move resources there myself to set up shop on some things. And at this point, what we have to seek the Most High for what He would have us do with our resources. I know I'm a Q2UA supporter, but what is? I mean, you're as much. You're doing your job.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. Just truthfully speaking, what resources do we have here that the continent doesn't have? I'm just saying, what resources do we have here that the continent doesn't have? I've seen more media resources over there on the continent. You have channels. I'm going to tell you, you have channels, and they're in Kenya and Ghana and Nigeria. And they have better production and lighting and everything else that you would see here.
Mm. That's a point.
But what it is that we have a bias because it's a programming. It's the programming. And they're not going to tell you in the programming that you don't really need anything. The only thing that you need is just your body. Really.
That's liberating.
Really.
That's liberating.
Because if you give them a chance, they will support you. If you give them a chance. Look, do you understand? All they want is a chance. But again, in this chance, I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you this. I'm doing a quick. All right, so it's no secret I'm in Florida. I'm in Tampa. And I'm gonna get I give you these comps. I'm gonna give you these comps. They have here that the median price, I'm gonna read this on out to you. You can even look at Hillsborough County, Florida, price per acre. You can look at that and Google it. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it's so expensive is this. Here in Florida, Florida is highly, highly rich in agriculture. You can plant things. You can grow things. You can build on things. So in Hillsborough County, the acreage here, it says here average average listing prices often exceed 300,000 per acre. And it shows here median price is about $76,519 per acre, but the average listing price overall is $309,428.
That's based on agriculture.
This is based on average listing.
Okay.
Because you can do agriculture and you can also develop. So if you have mixed commercial use, it's around 309,000. Phase one is building the hospital. And the more that we build, the more land that they will provide for us. It's not the issue. They have engineers on out there. They build on out there. I was showing you all that when I was driving through Accra. I was showing you all that.
Well,
you all think that they don't know how to build buildings? Are you kidding? Of how fast Africa is growing? Those Europeans are out there building up things left and right.
We have to come to the reality of our unsustainability here, and come to the understanding that basically they just moved the plantation fence. They just moved the fence, and we're still there's nothing we can have sovereign over here. I mean, there were some families that put their money together and bought land in place. They're having a terrible time here because you can buy, maybe you make lease a land or whatever. You subscribe to land because they got 6 ways to Sunday to get away from you. In fact, we've gone down from those 12 years between 1865 and the year of the compromise that was made against us. So basically, we don't have any status here and haven't had any status here. We just had the hope that we could be sustainable with our families, and it's proven that you can't get it. And as Babylon goes down and these resources are made even less, we have even less of a toehold here. So yes, we're able to move funds and everything over there to get the land. We just need the Most High, and we need the will to get our people. I'm talking to my family all the time about, no long-term investments here. We have to get out of here. This thing is going south. We need to be manning the lifeboats. This thing is going down. So it's to get our people on that thing and then get the resources where we can go. So we have to two things. We have to build up the people here to ready to go, and build up the land over there, and prepare the people for the land, and prepare the land for the people. And QTUA has been at the forefront of preparing the land, and this system gets us, if we can get the resources within the system to get over there, I'm on board.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, with what we're doing, it takes trust. And that's simply the whole of it. Do you trust me? Do you trust QTUA? Here's the thing. You don't have to trust me. Do you trust the Most High? That's it. That's the only thing I can do. I can only put this offer in front of the people. That's it. That's it. We moved the container on out there. That container opened up this door. This door will open up a tremendous door. Do you not think that they have the troops on the ground in Nigeria? Do you think that they have that just because? For grins and giggles? No. It's to be a deterrent to the other nation. To do what? They're basically saying directly or indirectly, however you want to put it, leave these Negroes alone. And yet and still, in the defiance of our brothers and sisters on the continent, they're still waving us back with open arms. As I had stated, here in Hillsborough County, especially where I live, yeah, 300,000 per acre is about right where I'm at. We're asking for 400,000. And that's over 60 plus acres. And you know, the funny thing is, we're able to do this. We were able to come up in less than 60 days around $50,000 in less than 60 days. And we got a container shipped. Imagine $400,000 and we have a lasting present to where we have a hospital being built and funded. That's just in phase one. In phase two, we have other developmental programs that would support the community. I can't go into those details. But it's a process. It's a process that we progress on. And the reality is this: you want to know why a lot of our people never worked in the State Department? You want to know a lot of why our people, if they worked in the State Department,
They don't
that
want
they
us
were
in
the
the
biggest
international. They don't want
bingo.
us on that international field. I was speaking on another podcast or one of these kind of pseudo FBA podcasts, and the fact of the matter, if you look at it, whenever one of our leaders got over that international, I mean, Ralph Bunch got Malcolm Jamal Warner in the surf, and you go down to Martin Luther King speaking on the international stage against the Vietnam War. He's gone. Malcolm X, when he went out to the Muslim community in other countries internationally, he's gone. That's the thing. They want us in this prison, and this FBI SOP is again to keep us here and separate the two sticks, but keep us off that international stage and keep a false narrative on either side of the diaspora and the Atlantic from that. So that's the tipping point. We get difficulty. That's to get our people to put together resources here to even get over there. Like right now, with this kill and steal and destroy mode, if they got people thinking in survival mode and not giving mode to do that, dealing with the harlot riding the beast, and they're both against us now. But we just have to push through it, and we need the Most High to have a miracle to really just to get. I'm looking for a miracle in my finances to be able to do more.
Sean is saying all those Hebrews you named were sellouts. Look, back in that day, back in that time, you're probably right. I can't take that, or I can't make that claim and take that against you. You're probably right. But again, at that time, they're probably thinking that that's the way to go. They realized that that was not a great course of action.
One thing I think, Karis, is there's a lot of recency bias. I was hard on a lot of people before until I realized the timeline of the 400 years. You got to give almost kind of a pass to people. Nobody was doing anything before 2019. The Bible says that no one would lift up his head. Nobody was going anywhere. So they were not only up against this system and up against the dragon and the beast. They were up against the Most High.
Yeah.
We were on lockdown and probation. The Most High had us imprisoned. In fact, we were prospering the very system that was oppressing us by contract of our covenant, that they would receive the blessing. So they were really, God was literally helping them with blessings according to our covenant, that our enemies would have these things. So anybody
So what
coming
were
up in that
they?
time,
So basically, they were usurping our blessing.
yes,
And they're mad because if you understand that we're taking our blessing back, they're mad that we're taking our blessing back because they're not able to spiritually prosper off of our blessing.
they lost their license to ill. They were able to get away with that when we had that. We were in that structure with the Most High. But now that time is up, they're in the Most High is in judgment mode on them, and we're in transition mode to receive our blessing. Whereas that Jacob's time. So, but I'm just saying, a lot of time is counterproductive when we talk about some of our ancestors at the time, because it's a different world now. But
Wait a second. I'm just going to ask you this. In the Bible, and I know that things have been, obviously, excuse me. All right, family. Again, I told you I'm still not 100%, so I have to take some time out to do these coughs. You see that in the Exodus, compared to Jasher, compared to what you see in Jubilees, the Bible gives a very heavily redacted version of what captivity looked like, because if you think about this, those that would be administering captivity could not look at what captivity looked like the first time because they didn't want the Gentiles here to see the blueprint of what our forefathers went through. Because once they would see that and notice that and understand it and say, well, you know what? Let me make sure I'm praying that this isn't just me or it's different. That's the last thing that they wanted. You can't have a captivity and have the captors and oppressors second guessing their role. That's when the prison system fails. The prison system is designed for what it is. We read Isaiah 14. They're strong on that. You want to know how strong they are in that? I was looking at a YouTube video the other day. I kid you not. There was a kindergarten teacher in New York. She called ICE on the parents of a 6-year-old in her classroom. And she said on that phone conversation, quote unquote, they're taking up our resources. And that's something that they shouldn't get a chance to do. And I wanted to say to that lady on the phone, remember, you all think that you all shouldn't be found guilty. But you still all have a stolen people. And you're living off the legacy of those riches of a stolen people. Everything you have here is a stolen resource. Thank you, Pastor Rick Fletcher. It's all stolen resources.
That person you was talking about is, to me, is in the overseer class. and the overseer class still identifies with the actual ruling class. And
Yes.
they're being thrown under the bus by the ruling class, but they still have that set. They so much want to be ruling class that they do the bidding, even though it's starting to turn on them. And we're seeing it happen. They get pew-pewed and stuff like that. They're still, their status is gone. See, they're being sacrificed to preserve the ruling class, but much like in the Civil War, if you owned in the South, if you owned 20 slaves, you were exempt from military service. And yet people that didn't even overflow went and died on the fields of Gettysburg and all these places, and they still didn't get it. So it is what it is.
It wasn't the slave owners, the slave holding folks. It was actually the other classes of the, quote unquote, free white men that were there, that were doing the trades and the other services along the, quote unquote, slaves. They just didn't have the status. And they were the first ones drafted. And guess what? They're still the first ones that's there in that policing authority. Don't think that this is everything here is a police state. I don't care what you say, it is. You want to know why? Because that's what the Bible says. And guess what? We can look at it from top to bottom, everything. We may have a little bit of freedom to transit here and there, but try and go and get your citizenship in mass.
We got more people in prison than any place in the world. We have the most people literally incarcerated of any country in the world. Yes, we're a police state.
Yeah, no, she did. She called ICE on a 6-year-old's parents. She didn't realize the number that she was calling was actually it was a fake number that this guy was putting on out there, that she had called into. And she thought that she was talking to a legitimate ICE agent. And the way, and he literally exposed her heart. So don't think that they're just, oh, that's not me. Man, you do not know. You do not know the people that your children are dealing with up in those school systems. You don't.
They are doubling down on the sins of their ancestors. This narrative, oh, that wasn't. No, you're doing the same things, and the Most High has given you the opportunity to do that.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you this because I let people know I'm a school teacher. I tell that to people. I'm a school teacher. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. I do feel sorry for our Gentiles that are here, because I see in the younger generation, they're having the questions that their parents and grandparents cannot answer. And that's creating a glitch in the system, in the matrix, that they're not wanting. Okay, so stay with me now. When you're seeing and they're looking at all this stuff, understand why they had to sell TikTok. Understand what the purpose was to sell TikTok. Because that generation is gone. The generation of that next overseer class, it got wiped out. It's totally programmed out. Hence, this is why there's such a big push for automation, robots, and things of that nature. Why? Because, again, you have a couple different things that had happened. Yes, number one, TikTok was exposing truth. And number two, our scepter is coming back. So then our authority and our voice is coming back. So remember, everything that they would try to say, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Should we do this? And we're saying no. We're not supporting their actions. Well, if you're not supporting us, then obviously you're against us. No, that's not what we're saying. We're not supporting it. We're not dismaying it. We're just over here staying quiet and keeping to our lonesome.
Well, if you're a ruling class multi-billionaire oligarch, your existential threat are not all these people that they're talking about, the nation, this nation here and this nation. Your threat, and when for the people that have it all, your existential threat is the have-nots, and the have-nots are being multiplied in the class below there. The middle class is just gone. So then you have a bunch of have-nots. So they definitely they've got to gaslight, and they're trying to just escape a system. They know it's falling with the wealth. They want to transition to the next place with the wealth.
Well, yeah. So you have a population collapse on the horizon. You have a wealth collapse that's actually here. You have it to where you're now starting to see a divergence, right, of the wealth. Now think about this. When the wealth diverges, what's the next mechanism? What's the next trigger? What was Babylon always about regarding that golden cup? Babylon could tell the narrative. Babylon could do what? Could indulge
Sorcery.
the lie. Oh, they're just black folks. Don't worry about that. They're just Negroes. Don't worry about that. Hello. You better. What was Jacoba talking about? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5. Those nations that had not known Jacob. Well, guess what? Again, I'm trying to explain what these mechanisms are going to look like. Because when people talk about the ships of Tarshish, those aren't Hebrew ships.
Wow.
But they're going to be in service to what? To take us back? Yes. Because why? Because there's going to be a monumental shift occurring. So you see this, U.S. wants to create a critical minerals trading bloc with its allies to counter China. Why? Because the rest of the nations know that this point right here, right now, the U.S. crashed the market. They crashed it on purpose.
Going.
What's that? Go ahead.
I said crashing. It's still going.
Oh, it is. It is. But it's going because a lot of people understand that the metal, the mineral and the metal discovery, the U.S. is trying to bring it down to a floor, but China's trying to say, nope, it's supposed to go up. Because why? Because this is a true value over the dollar. And if you have a true value over the dollar, then guess what you have? You now have a depreciated dollar. You now have a dollar that is going to fall. This is a desperation point that you see right here.
The ultimate thing that the West, or really I'll say America, is trying to do is make sure they don't lose their world status with the dollar.
But what did China say? China said this, that they're going to take the world status.
You know something? I'm gonna be very brief. There's an anecdote. When I was in 8th grade, we used to reproduce documents in the schools with mimeograph machines. It was like the carbon paper machines and do that. But we had this innovation come up called xerography. The Xerox machine came out, and some 8th graders at my school, this is like before 1970s, before late 60s, and they figured out, well, also another innovation came up. They had machines, change machines, that you could stick your dollar in and it would give you change in it. So these 8th graders, kind of your class level, figured out, well, we can Xerox a dollar and just cut out the paper and put it in these primitive change machines and get the change out of it. So this one cleaners that was near the school, the students, the culprits, wasn't everybody. They cleaned out this machine, got real money for these paper dollars. And I keep on thinking of the US doing that same thing. They eventually were caught and you couldn't do it anymore. They put in the safeguards, you couldn't get them anymore. And that's a metaphor for this country. They were getting real assets for fake dollars for all these years. And then the jig was up, just like that Xerox machine at that cleaners. And the students were caught. We've been caught. So now we've got this essentially Confederate money that the world is really understanding what value it has. It's losing rapidly, and we're trying to hold on to it. But the jig is up. You can't put Xerox dollars into the change machine and get real money anymore. And that's where we are.
Yeah, it's the fiat. It's the fiat. And what China's trying to say is you won't have fiat because everything is now going to be gold backed. And if you're doing things in a righteous manner, then you don't have arbitrage and everything else to try to one up somebody or steal from somebody. That's what they're trying to say. So, yeah, go ahead.
The money literally says this dollar is backed up by the full faith and credit of the United States. It literally said that's what they tell you. It's backed up by the full faith and credit. What full faith and credit is the United States exhibiting to anybody? That should tell you right there.
Well, remember, the full faith is really based off of us, and I think people all around the world see this, they understand it, but when our silence is like this is why they always have to say, every single time you see something happening with an ICE event, and then there's like one or two of us on out there that will be having some sort of a speaking engagement, they have to highlight that one or two of us. They can't highlight those crowds anymore because those crowds, it shows that we're not there.
They need us to co-sign.
Exactly. What that shows to the rest of the world, wait, black folks aren't in this? You don't have your, and really what it is, you don't have your Negroes under control. What's happening? They're scared. See, the rulers of this world, they're scared because they know that once they lose control, all control, they understand that their timing is now very, very limited. And they know that their time is very, very limited. I'm not here to put a time frame on things. I'm not. But I can tell you this. In terms of, the Iranian talks collapsing, something here, something there. Oh, it's on and now it's not on. They're trying to drive everybody to the edge of their seat. Why? Because there's so much distractions going on. I told you, we're out of the 12-hour news cycle, and we're now in a news cycle that's literally every 30 minutes. Something's going on here. Something's going on there. Right? This is a news cycle of a catastrophic behaviorism. It's catastrophic. Well, what's going to happen? Why is it right? If you have too much information, you have information overload. And then what you will begin to do, you'll begin to be in a paralysis.
Them being in desperation mode with so many crises putting forth at the same time, then you're paralyzed. Yeah, you said it's literally paralysis. So what do you do? And they want people in that sense of confusion. They don't want the clarity of what the Most High has told us to do from the Bible.
What does the paralysis do? What happen? What do you do? especially with those snake charmers over there in India. What do? They make sure that the snake is focusing on too many things. And then they're able to go on up and just grab the snake by the head as the snake is being distracted by too many things. It's sensory. This serpent is being caught because of oversensory.
Sensory overload.
So they don't know how to naturally react to when the head is about to be covered. For us, we're not going to be involved in that. And they're mad because we're not involved. Can't you do this? You all need to help us. What? Yeah, the YT man and the shiesty talking about you all black folks is going to be you next. You. And then we said we didn't care. Okay.
They can't move the needle on us.
Yeah. Okay. And what's your next threat? What's your next threat? Because here's the thing. We haven't said anything to threaten them. Nobody said anything to threaten them. Matter of fact, listen, what we said was this. We're praying for them and we're going to leave you alone. That's it. Let the Most High deal with you all. That's all we can do.
The word literally says where there is strife and confusion, there is every evil thing. So They want us to jump into the strife and the confusion, and we'll sit this one out. We opted out of that, and that freaks them out.
Mm-hmm. Throw your hands in the air. Uh-oh, our hands aren't being thrown in the air. Our hands are saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to be still. Our hands are not participating in their evil machinations. And that is a scary thought. Look, earlier this week, they ended TPS. So everybody here in Florida, including myself, every black person is now, technically speaking, they're not just in Florida, this is the United States. But you'll have Haitian populations, Haitian areas that are now going to be affected. So we already know what this is going to look like for us. The reality is we already knew this. We were building around this. We understood this. We weren't just sitting in the bag, oh, woe is me, they're coming. No, the Most High already gives us witty ideas and inventions. No, we're good. It's just that, to be quite honest, you've had a lot of folks from these other countries, they came through and they drank the snake venom. And they drank that snake venom hard. Oh, I'll never go anywhere. Oh, they do this. And you know what? I saw it the most in the military. They'll never do anything here and blah, blah, blah. I saw their paperwork. Couple folks from the islands, naturalized citizens. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were naturalized. Okay. You're just a green card holder. I didn't know. And now they're going over these green card holders. You had one, I think, grandfather in Georgia, served the army, got on out, and then guess what? He is now somewhere getting ready to go back to Jamaica after living, I think, since he was about 15 or 16 years old here in the United States, going to a country that he sparsely knows. Talk about having your life uprooted. You know, whenever they do those deportation orders, you don't get any type of VA.
Mm.
You don't get any type of retirement.
So that was a lie when they were promising those soldiers that if they served in the U.S. military, they would get citizenship or permanent status all along?
It helps in the process of getting your citizenship. That doesn't mean that you automatically got your citizenship. So imagine that. That's pretty cruel. You, and they'll say, look, I faithfully served this country. I faithfully defended this country from all adversaries, foreign and domestic.
That's so USA. He could have died in service of this country and still wasn't that. Well, that's our history. We died in all the wars and it still
Yeah.
didn't make any difference.
Yeah. But remember, and this was the con game that they had on them. The con game was when they came on over, that they were perceived to be better than the Negroes that are here. Oh, you all are different. And you want to know what? That con game worked for them for a while. It worked. And then it all changed.
So they inflate you and then they bust your balloon.
Oh, and remember, they were totally inflated. They were totally inflated. Oh, I'm not black. Oh, they were totally inflated. This is why you had the FBA become so successful, because of how they would look at, yeah, that was a destruction, a mental destruction, a mental situation that had been programmed into our brothers and sisters from the islands, that when they came on over here, that they were given some sort of preferential treatment, some sort of preferential status, right? Hey, you're something other than, you're different, you're that, you're this. I was talking to my son the other day. My son's friend is from St. Lucia. The year before, my son had been now to Japan a couple times. In 2024, he went to Japan, and he was able to go with all of his friends who had gone. 2025, one of his friends did not go, the one from St. Lucia. Is it St. Lucia or St. Lucia? Thank you, Brother Garth. St. Lucia. Please forgive my lack of Caribbean articulation. and this conversation came up because, you know, TPS was ending, and my son had said that, yeah, one of his best friends wasn't able to go on the trip because he is a green card holder. And the crazy thing is that his parents work for the federal government. And I had to, I thought that was so interesting because I'm like, wait, they're about to shed everything and shed everybody. Understand that if the system is collapsing, they got to get rid of people. They're going to first invite you out. And then if you don't get invited out, then you're going to start running out. You're going to have to start fleeing out. And then if you don't start fleeing out, you're going to start getting reduced out, i.e., warfare.
You know, Karis, as I think about it, that was in fact the American dream. Immigrants coming in this country said, we can't guarantee you success, but we can promise you one thing. If you come over here, you're going to be better than an N-word. And
Yep.
that was given to Black immigrants of the diaspora the same way, because the native the Black Americans, I hate they corrupted the term so much. They look at us as insurrectionists, you know, as that, because we're the Nat Turners. They know. I mean, they know they got there's a line they got to cross with us, and they got problems, and they know this, and that's like Tribe of Judah all the way. We always had that. So again, they had to delineate between these people coming over here. You can come to be an American, but then they had to further started to cancel the YT licenses they were giving to people. And the first people to go were going to be the melanated ones or the brown ones and stuff. So that's what's happening. When you got to shed people, you got to tighten up your licensing procedure. So here we have it. So it's coming down to Florida. It probably would have happened here in Chicago, but we don't have delineated Haitian communities. Everybody is intermixed in the diaspora, the broader diaspora of Black people. I'm sure they know where some of them are, but you can't go in one particular community and clean up like you can do in Hispanic communities here.
Well, you know, but that again, that was the lie that was told to them, right? They didn't know. They didn't know what we had struggled with to even allow them to come on over. They didn't know that. They didn't know all of the years of oppression, obviously systemic oppression that we had undergone, that had been not destroyed, but had been reduced. Keyword, that had been reduced to the level of something appropriate, right? In terms of, well, it's kind of bad, but it's at least not as bad as what I receive at home. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is still it was always still an idea of, it's not the greatest, but at least it's better than what I had at home.
So it was still a come up from where they came from in their eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And then that's what they would always try to say in terms of, well, you know, you all, in terms of them folks and their plea of, you know, of bringing in the immigrant class. And that's the reason why you have that delineation narrative within the FBA, because it was hey, you know, the truth is, well, guess what? Yeah, white people were doing that. YT people, yes, the Caucasian people were doing that. They were the only ones that were in charge of the immigration system. We didn't have any control of the immigration system. Tell me what Black person had control of the immigration system. No one. So when they were coming over after the campaigns of destabilization, once that nation was destabilized, and guess what? Okay, who wants to come on over into Florida? into South Carolina, into Georgia? Who wants to come here to the United States? I do. Oh, here you go. Random. Oh, I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed to be alive. I'm so blessed to come to the United States. It's the greatest thing ever. Yeah, especially after things have been destabilized. Who destabilized the country? I don't know. It was leadership. What was that leadership doing? I don't know. What was their foreign involvement? What was their foreign interactions looking like? I don't know. So then they don't even understand what caused their countries to be reduced in the first place. It truly is a very demonic system. Dang, you don't know what it is? We don't know. Because when you have created and caused instability and the lack of education and understanding and critical analysis, then you're able to truly control a population. Yade Corner says this: born in Jamaica, I didn't know what Jim Crow was until I went to college in the United States. They never taught Black American history. They only taught us about Jamaica, really. Wow. Yep. And that's what we have here. We don't truly know about a lot of the things being born here. We didn't truly know about a lot of things going on. Excuse me, outside of the United States. Oh, everything else is just an S-hole third world country. Why? Why is it a third world country? I don't know, because that's what they told us. I guess that's all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else.
It's third world because your country is robbing them all their raw materials and sending them back manufacturers goods that once they've apprised in profits and destroying the economies. That's why they're third world, because they're being robbed by the same people that are oppressing you.
So imagine you being wealthy. Imagine you being so wealthy that they have to come through and rob all your resources. You see, I don't know if people truly got this in the I Show Speed tour. I Show Speed couldn't even buy a diamond in Botswana. Do you all get that? That should all make you feel a certain sort of way. He was in Africa, he was in Botswana, and he couldn't even buy a diamond.
They've got the game rigged. You can't win playing by their rules, so you got to build your own, make your own rules, get your own sovereignty. You know what would be poetic justice if the Haitians they do deport turn Haiti into Burkina Faso West.
Well, you understand, Haiti and Burkina Faso actually do have a relatively historic relationship. So that's something that's being that had been cultivated for a little bit. It's still on the up and ups, but understand. I was looking at a report the other day that they had sent a warship over near Port-au-Prince. If I saw that report correctly, they had sent over a warship. I some of these stories I'll just read and kind of move on, but I thought that was very interesting. Very, very interesting.
It makes sense. Francophone Africa and Francophone America.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But understand this doctrine now of extending diplomacy through the gun, through the missile, through the rocket. Now
Aircraft
the
carrier
gun,
diplomacy.
carrier diplomacy, gunship diplomacy, and the gunship diplomacy is back because understand there's no diplomacy. That's actually not diplomacy. It's actually called intimidation. That's all that is. And you have intimidation when you actually don't have a genuine relationship, because if you actually had a genuine relationship, you would be able to navigate through those actions and come to an equivalent understanding or meeting of the minds.
I've come to the conclusion that Western capitalism has been so drunk and seduced by slavery that they cannot do win-win. They got to be, we win, you're subjugated. We win, you're dominated. They cannot do that. Even some of the other powers that you might look at an eye of suspicion. The Chinese realize, hey, we got to give people something. The Russian, anybody else coming in, we have to have. There has to be a give and take. With the West, it's all take, and that's unsustainable. But they've always able to get away with it because of their military power, and the military power, even in the old Rome, that wanes, and you can't support the military power without the economy. And when your economy is destabilized and gone, then the military is gone too.
Well, and as I was talking a little bit last night, something that I was stating, which is what a lot of people don't understand, the brink of this and how close everything is. All right, so I'm going to take this off. I look at it like this. The Strait of Hormuz, right? So timing. Why is this timing very interesting? And what Iran was trying to do in terms of, negotiating and how they're negotiating from their standpoint. Obviously, it's funny because what the U.S. It's a very duplicitous nature, and I'm going to say this: everything that I'm saying is very, very fluid, like literally. And here's Al Jazeera on this. Yeah, and I want to address some certain things. Mr. W says, if respect were mutual between all of the colored people, the FBA movement wouldn't work. And I understand. Dawn is all vanity. He said doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc. came to USA, scrub floors, worked their way up. Yes, yeah, they came to the U.S. They did, quote unquote, work their way up. I'm going to tell you that the quote unquote working their way up was by nature the design of white supremacy, because again, what was being provided was that those that were here would then be denigrated to lower position. That is where you get the rift between the FBA, right, and what we're seeing right here. That's why the FBA movement, as Mr. W was saying, even though it makes no sense, it's thriving, because for the people that understand that causation, that's the causation. We understand that because why? Imagine this. If you were in Jamaica, right? And then they said, hey, all of these African Americans, they're coming on over here, and then they're taking on over because why? Because they know everything. They got everything. They can do this because your country is so jacked up. We just had to come on over here and show you all how to do well, right? And then you come to find out you actually were doing well, but you were being systematically denigrated to where your achievements were not being recognized. That's not a very fun conclusion. This is why they can say that. But the reality is that they don't want to let people know, especially those that have been brought, that did come on over. They knew they had you come on over with degrees. They knew the level of it. It's an indoctrination imperative. Just call it what it is. So then they could say, oh yeah, guess what? You all worked so much better than the black folks here. Boy, oh boy, you all were great. And now, again, that time frame that they had, because it was all an okey doke. It was all a setup. It just took about 60, 70 years for the setup to spring. Surprise, got them, gotcha. Now, what are you going to do? You going to go back to Jamaica? You going to go back to your islands? I don't have anybody there. I really only have distant cousins there. Well, sorry, you're going to have to go back anyway. Why? Because we can't take care of you. We're now running out of money. But back in chapter 2. But I want to pivot real quick over here. This is right here. This is Al Jazeera. This is their live. So this is giving a little bit of a time frame to time frame. Yeah, it is the oligarchy. The oligarchy is basically saying, look, everybody's got to leave. The party's over. And nobody, when the party's over, people don't want to leave when the party's over. Wait a second. I literally made my life here in this party. All right, this is from Al Jazeera. Live, U.S.-Iran struggle to find common ground ahead of talks. All right, talks between Iran and the United States will take place in Oman on Friday. Mediators from Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt have presented Iran and the U.S. with the framework of key principles to be discussed in the talks. Two sources told Al Jazeera. U.S.-Iran meeting a waste of oxygen, says former U.S. official, former national security advisor, Trump's first term. John Bolton says there's essentially no chance of a possible agreement between the U.S. and Iran, calling the meeting a waste of oxygen. And here's the reality. This is just, if people don't know, these talks are fake. If I can just be real with you, that's why I said I don't know how much time I have on this YouTube Places and Spaces. I joke with people like, hey, I don't know how much time I have. Honestly, I don't. Because if I'm speaking out against their narrative, then I'm not very friendly to the narrative or the system of control. So again, like I said, they can come after me anytime. Okay. Hallelujah. If it's the Most High's will, let his will be done. Okay. Hallelujah. But I'm going to tell you this, and this was the thing that I was explaining, because the reality is we've seen all this before. Do you remember the last time Iran got hit? Remember, I don't think people understood this, or they just changed the narrative so quickly that it was just it's astonishing. But that, to me, that's a level of witchcraft that is actually beyond our understanding. I mean, it is. It truly is. Iran was literally in talks with the US in June in Qatar. And those talks were literally a piece of paper being passed from room to room. They're in the same hotel, they're in the same area, and they're passing paper from room to room just so they could avoid any type of electronic compromise. And do you know that in the midst of the attack, or excuse me, in the midst of that negotiation, the Eastern Mediterranean nation, yes, the Eastern Mediterranean nation had attacked Iran in the midst of that negotiating party. This was in June. Look it up. Shalom, thank you for your gifts. I appreciate it. Look at it. Look this up. Now, I'm going to tell you this because as I was talking to my cousin last night, excuse me, I was laughing because you have to remember that when you have that certain level of arrogance, and maybe that's me because I've been around this a lot more and I've seen this a lot more, just by nature of what I was doing in the military. These people think that everybody's stupid. They do. You, me, everybody. We're all dumb. Well, they're stupid again for you know the funniest thing they would say would be like, "Hey, well then they're stupid for trusting us." That's their bad. Dang. So how can you deal in good faith with the people that are constantly going to be lying to you? Unless Iran knows that they're going to do this. Because why? Can a strike, or can a leopard change their spots? Can they? Can they? They can't.
Put blankets in that closet downstairs in that room.
So unless, and I was talking to my cousin about this, I said unless they realize this, They're going to go to the table. They're going to go. They're going to get the okie doke, and from that okie doke, they know that they're going to get they're going to be attacked. As they're attacked, they won't be able to recover their delegation. I believe that with Oman, they'd be able to recover their delegation. If it was in Turkey, not so much. That's what they're trying to do to have that platform. Because think about this. If you're in a country and in that country, you kidnap people, you kidnap a delegation. You think these people are stupid? They just saw what happened to Maduro less than 5 weeks ago. You think they're stupid? Hey, we kidnapped your people. Now you need to negotiate. They're not stupid.
They're playing the game on a higher. They're playing the game on a higher level.
Yes,
and they can't see it, and they're taking advantage of the delusion of the people they're dealing with. And 47 is the poster child for that delusion, because they that's a military advantage in itself.
The saddest thing is I was actually saying something last year regarding how the U.S. was on its deathbed and that the U.S. was representing a person with dementia, right, not being able to control their bowels and their faculties. And then shout out to Sister Shonda when she was talking about Trump and his consonance issues. And the reality is that we're a nation that is very foul, and our constancy is in not being able to hold a good manner, and we now have a very foul odor to us in how we deal with things. You can't deal with people that have a foul odor. You think that you're going to be able to be fresh and prim when you've been soiling yourself with all of these other crazyisms. Greenland, Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia. Oh, we're going to take control it all. That's a stench. That's a political stench. So again, you don't have time to then have a political okie doke. All right, thank you, Brother Fast Snooker. I appreciate it.
You're too busy hauling around your colostomy bag to be slick on anybody.
Well, that and they changed everything last minute because why? Because if you're changing up the schedules, you can't really put any operations in place, because that would be the very first thing that I would be thinking as that Iranian delegation. If I go to Turkey, what are you going to try and do to kidnap me? I'm going to hold us in Oman. In Oman, they're close. Iran is close. They can deploy on out there to stop a kidnapping. Do you all get what I'm saying? They can make it from their islands to interdict a kidnapping. They probably, more than likely, let's just be honest, they probably have their covert teams on the ground that can interdict a kidnapping. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what the U.S. just did. So you have to put yourself in that mode of thinking, that modality of thinking, that this nation can no longer be trusted.
Well, you literally got the Wizard of Oz with the curtain pulled back, pulling the levers behind that everybody can see, thinking he can still make his avatar scare the world. And you know that we see you back there, right? And he's like, he's denying that. So that's where we're at.
So now, if you think about this, let's put this into another greater context, okay? If you think about this, here's this one. All right. So, you know that more than likely the Eastern Mediterranean nation is going to attack. And then that's going to give the U.S. plausible deniability. Hey, we were trying to do this and blah, blah, blah. No. Part of the conditions, I guarantee you, part of the conditions that they're saying right now that the U.S. does not want to agree to in the sticking point, I guarantee you it is this. If you have any ally or proxy that is partnered with the West, even to include, you'll understand that U.S. also has proxies in the region. There are Western aligned proxies in the region. If they're going to attack, then this thing is over. Understand that Iran has had all of these gas leak explosions. Excuse me, what, like 4 or 5 of them so far? These gas leak explosions supposedly happening. What do you think that's all about?
Well, the people on the ground in Iran, the demonstrations and everything like that. Uh, I was reading that the advanced weather war that's prohibited by the United Nations, yet denied by all the nations, had affected the agriculture for years in Iran so much that you have these shortages, the engineered shortages, and the stabilization campaigns in Iran has made this descent in people. Then you insert your operators in there to further exacerbate that. So I mean, so everything. So I mean, yeah, they've got people in Iran and being exposed. So they got internal proxies as well as external proxies. And what Iran has said, okay, you're all in it. We recognize you're all in it. You're not going to be able to hide behind that, and we're going to take you all out.
Do you know that Saudi Arabia actually had lodged a complaint, I believe it was to UAE or Qatar a couple of years ago, to have them stop their cloud feeding operations because it was actually directly affecting Saudi Arabia and Jordan because of what it was doing to their jet stream of sorts, and the effect of them losing out on their rain, their annual percentage of rain. And this is a real thing. This is actually a real thing. So that did go to the complaint was obviously accepted by UAE, but they wanted to kind of, hey, hush that on up, because if you put too much attention onto it, then everything that can be done and that is done, that can be done with the intent of weaponizing it. Everything is used for a weaponization of sorts. Oh, it's good? Well, then how can we make it bad? Oh, this is great? Then how can we make it evil?
That's the West. The technology goes to a weapon first.
Exactly. Oh, AI? Well, AI is good, but we want to make that sucker wicked.
That's how China was dominated for the 100 years of shame. They had technology, but they didn't automatically put it into a weapon at first. We literally got gunpowder from them, and we weaponized it better than they did. The West did.
Yep. We got gunpowder from China. We surely did, and we were like, or excuse me, the West was like, "Hey, time to weaponize this bad boy." That and that is the intent. That's always the intent. Now, that will all be found out in a little bit. So, we'll put that one up on the back burner. But I look at it like this: Iran knows it's going to be attacked, but when it gets attacked this time, as I had stated, why are they negotiating? Think about this. Excuse me. I'm trying to hang on in there, family. Why are they negotiating? Well, remember, they're negotiating because, again, supposedly, the U.S. had destroyed all the uranium. But now Iran has uranium. Iran is close to weaponizing its uranium. You know, that's the whole thing of how does this make sense? And like I stated, I didn't think that they destroyed the uranium, but they were trying to say all that. I didn't think that they did. They were trying, but they didn't. And now, again, these last couple of weeks, it's about a week and a half, they've had shipments from from Russia and China into Iran. On top of that, here's another bigger aspect. They said that now they have weaponry that can reach into Europe. So Germany and France are not okay in this one either. Neither is the UK. So praying for our brothers and sisters on over there.
There was a former weapons inspector with that original group that went into Iran that got thrown out, but he said they had 83. They had centrifuges and 83%. Which they say you need 90, but they were right on the cusp. They had quantities of weapons grade uranium. So his argument was that Iranians should be considered like Israel as a crypto nuclear state. They literally have a nuclear weapon. He said there was enough there to make at least 10 nuclear weapons then. So and since then, so literally he said it doesn't take that many centrifuges to make weapons grade once you have the reactor grade, which they have in abundance. And so literally you have to consider them like Israel, that's a wink wink nuclear power.
Well, I'm gonna say this without, because there's certain things I'm able to discuss, and there's certain things I'm not able to discuss, obviously, so I don't go missing. so this isn't my so I don't have certain folks, pounding on my door. And listen, there are other people that are in different purviews that are they're plants that's authorized to basically let people know, right? Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. Okay. So they were allowed to tell you. If I say something, I'm not authorized to say nothing. So I have to skirt around different things. You all understand what I'm saying?
So they put that out there as bait, then, you think?
Yeah. Look, I can't neither confirm nor deny. Okay. But remember, they've been saying for a while, and that Eastern Mediterranean nation's been saying for a while, that Iran has had the nuclear capabilities to weaponize a fissile nuclear material. So they've had that ability, according to that Eastern Mediterranean nation. Remember, they stated that in the UN and all this other stuff. Now, the reality is that I'm coming from is from back in June. It's from back in June, where Iran, literally unprovoked, number one, they did what? They took out the Eastern Mediterranean nation. They took out one of their people in a high rise. That was like back in April, May. They still didn't do anything. There was a couple of different things, and Iran didn't do anything. I was telling you this, that Iran wasn't doing anything because I told you, in my opinion, Iran wasn't allowed to act. That's just my opinion. Iran was not allowed to act, and that was based on Russia and China basically saying, don't do anything because you're the linchpin. If America can trigger you as the linchpin, then they can go through and get everything taken care of. I believe that you still had a lot more planning and coordination via Russia and China, so then they could mount up a proper offense. Just in my opinion. Remember, the UN was trying to say, or it's not the UN, NATO was trying to say, oh, we're going to be ready by 2030. We need to be ready by 2028, then 2027. And now Russia is literally telling NATO, don't even think about it.
So in that scenario, they're like unto us. They wanted to trigger Iran just like they want to trigger us to put in their plan. And we're standing down, so Iran was standing down in that situation.
Yes. However, right now, Iran isn't standing down anymore because now I believe Russia and China have basically given Iran the full authority to do what they want to do. Does that make sense? Iran is basically now able to go all out.
They bought time to get ready, and now they're ready.
Yes. Now, was Iran ready last year? Yeah, they were. But they couldn't really respond the way that they wanted to respond. Now, like I had said, Iran could have literally decimated, excuse me, a couple of key targets. They could have destroyed a lot of things in UAE. They could have wiped out the Fifth Fleet in Manama, Bahrain. They could have they took out a satellite in Qatar. That was it. With old equipment. Keyword old equipment. In an area that they knew was going to be vacated. Don't think that they don't have agreed upon strike list. Hey, if we have to strike, we're going to strike that. Because at the same time, there are hardliners that wanted a more forceful response. That almost destabilized Khomeini because Khomeini didn't go all out. I don't think people understood that. Khomeini didn't go all out. And that almost destabilized them.
Yeah, these people were infuriated about that decapitation and stuff and attacks on civilians.
Mm-hmm. So right now, remember they said that they have Iran has their trigger on the button. And yes, I'm glad Egypt 99577 you had stated that, because he puts here Ramadan starts soon, and it does. And Ramadan ends March 19th. It starts February 17th and ends March 19th. Now, again, I don't know if that's going to have a big significance. Remember, if for Muslims, if you attack even in Ramadan, they are able to protect themselves. They're just not going to, stop Ramadan, they're able to protect themselves and fight. So that's the only provision that they have. So I would not be surprised that they try to do another show of force for the next 2 weeks, and then everybody stands down till after Ramadan. To me, I wouldn't be surprised. The only people that would hurt, to be quite honest, is the West. Because again, the West still has to deal with bonds that are not being bought by other nations. When the government has to continually print money to buy bonds, that's hyperinflation.
Well,
So
when you got to maintain these fleets and pay all those soldiers and keep those weapons and do those keep those carriers groups all over the world, that's you're hemorrhaging money all the time. So, and you're sitting around there waiting. It's still costing them money having these military forces pre-deployed in all these areas.
Yeah, there you go, Sister Barbara. That's my thought process too. That was actually my thought process too. She says that makes me wonder if America is planning to attack during Ramadan. Now, here we go. So if we look at some of these calendars, I'm just going to pull up a calendar real quick. If you look at some of the calendars, you would have what do we have next in the next couple of weeks? You have President's Day on Monday, the 16th. So to me, what it looks like is that you have about, I would say, 11 or 12 more days of political theater, which is what they want to have in this political theater. Then they start to get into March, and that is when they're celebrating their God of Forces, Mars. I also look. I'm not a big calendar guy, but it just makes you wonder when also Passover is. And obviously, there's so many different Passover dates for this season. I just have to laugh because it's always, well, Passover's this time. Look, it's like Passover season. You know, Passover season, in my opinion, is could, as Jacoba says, could literally be until like late July, early August, for real. And that's the barley harvest. So here's what I'm looking at. This is my thought process. I don't know who's going to look at that thought process and be like, "Oh, well, it's this and that." Look, I don't really care. But I'm going to say this. I believe Iran will retaliate. And the retaliation is that they're going to probably sink a couple ships, to include probably 1 or 2 aircraft carriers. What Iran will do is they'll say, look, this will be your time to de-escalate. And part of that is you need to leave the region. Don't tell them you need to leave the region. I think what America will do, they'll say, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds good. And then that's what America will employ, a nuclear weapon. Once America employs that nuclear weapon, that's when I believe that's when the rest of the world will be in a panic mode. Because the rest of the world would then be asking themselves, are we going to be next?
That's when the beast would rise up against the harlot.
Yep. Yep. So you have to understand, and this also, to me, this is all 2nd Ezra chapter 15. You'll start to see a lot of things happening in the United States. And I'm going to tell you this. This is just my personal opinion. My personal opinion. The moment that the U.S. deploys that nuke, whatever scale it's on, tactical, I don't care, whatever scale it's on, you will see a true concerted effort by us, especially African Americans, to try to get the heck up on out of Dodge. Because there are certain truths that we have, spiritually speaking, we can feel when something's coming. Oh, it's here. We need to go. Just like we know how to stay on code when it came to we're not going to these protests, we would know, we would feel, yep, something's on its way.
At that point, it would appear that the population would be destabilized here. Really, the elements that we sown in other countries would come home to roost at that point. With all these states and other things, all this confusion, it would be happening. It would be in the midst of that, because this nation is known by no means unified in any ways among the other than melanated community.
Well, remember, you would have a lot of people and obviously other ethnic groups trying to get up on out of here, trying to leave as soon as possible. They'd be going back to their nations. They'd be trying to clamor and leave on out as soon as possible. They wouldn't be able to leave because here's the thing. How do you trust those nations? How do you trust those folks? You don't know what elements you're going to be bringing in. Do you get what I'm telling you?
Yep. They'd have to vet who was coming back home from the United States.
Exactly. So now when people get mad about, Ghana, they suspended things. I wonder why. Do you think that maybe they understand also this calculus that I'm talking about? Do you think that maybe they realize what's happening? Do you think that maybe they understand their situation and being the place to where we were first set captive in terms of us coming back home? I think that's what prophecy says. Everybody would be clamoring. Wait a second. They now have a right. They would now have a right to do what? To respond. And because they're not going to be able to respond, guess what? the countries that they've made a pact with, especially Russia and China and North Korea, those countries would then be in the position to respond based off of that pact. That's how these defense pacts work. I'm not opening up a can of worms. This is the can of worms that they've opened up. This is what we're seeing. It's just that a lot of people don't want to be logically they don't want to logically be truthful. They want to have a logical deception. Well, and then it would be this, and then it would be no, it wouldn't. Because no, this would be the reality.
Esau is literally crashing out.
Mm-hmm.
He's going in the areas. This was ordained to them. It's just like our enslavement was ordained to us. We tripped certain wires, did certain things, met certain conditions of our and that causes end. So we have to realize that these people are in a judgment phase. They're under judgment, and they're going to do those things that's going to bring about the judgment. They're going to literally walk to the gallows, so to speak. And it can't stop, and no any more than we could stop the enslavement once we had crossed those lines.
And yeah, and everything they're doing this to themselves. They're literally doing this to themselves. Nobody was concerned about Iran until when? With this year, who was really concerned about Iran? When did this Iran? Well, Iran is next, and okay, really? What did I say back in June, July? I said they're going to have a round two. They just have to make sure that everybody's ready to go. They need to make sure that everybody is ready, is readily armed, which it was. When you saw that, remember the one netting person from that Eastern Mediterranean nation and had met with Trump. And then it was 2 weeks later, they started to put the gas, started to push the gas to accelerate all these things. Nobody. Iran was just doing what Iran was doing.
Nothing in Iran was ever an existential threat to the United States.
Exactly.
Never, at any time.
Come on, exactly. The protests, look, we have protests here. Did you hear anybody from Russia or China saying, hey, we're going to help with these protests? No. So that shows you the level of, I would say, duplicitousness and hypocrisy that you have.
They literally had their regime change operation on the ground, operating in the protests.
Yeah, they did. And that's been admitted.
And they have to admit it because they have to gloat over it. I mean, that the arrogance. I mean, before they won the victory, they won the battle. They're gloating over the victory, and they just expose themselves. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I would say this. Oh, excuse me. With America employing a tactical nuclear weapon, remember, they dropped the mother of all bombs, right? They did all this and all that, and they still weren't really able to make a dent in those mountains. What do you think they're going to drop next? It's going to be more than likely a small tactical nuclear weapon. Because why? Because when Iran says, you know what, we meant what we said, and they do what the U.S. didn't think that they were going to do, you're going to see the war hawks literally say, go ahead and do it. And it will be a quick turnaround. It's not going to be like one of those, oh, well, we're going to have to go here. No. The reason, and again, remember, what was the calculus the last time? What was the calculus the last time the U.S. struck Iran? The calculus the last time that the U.S. struck Iran was simply because, let's just face it, that Eastern Mediterranean nation was getting torn up. And remember, because we were indexing, we were going over this in the live streams. I mean, you name it. Remember the first couple days? Oh, yeah, we're kicking Iran's behind and everything else and blah, blah, blah.
So they come in and strike, declare victory and withdraw quickly.
Well, remember they didn't. And then what ended up happening? That rain of fire came through. And when that rain of fire came through from Iran, those volleys came through, they couldn't stop it. You were seeing the effects of the hypersonic missiles, and you were seeing the effects of the THAADs and the Patriot systems literally being jolted offline to where one went up, circled around, and then blew right back up. It blew itself up.
It's all arrogance because no one has ever fought this war. When you've been just fighting colonial wars against third world countries, and your arrogance is boasted by this, we haven't fought a near peer opponent in all this time, and we haven't used this modern weaponry. These generals are literally fighting the last war with outmoded equipment, according to the reality now. And just like there's been a democratization of information being able to travel, there's been a democratization of this weaponry that asymmetrical warfare has leveled up to a level that can oppose the huge empires.
Yeah, see, look, and that's what I said, look, the dome didn't work. And no, the dome didn't work. That was the problem. The dome didn't work. So when the dome didn't work, guess what? That's when the U.S. had to strike into action. Do you all see this trigger? So tomorrow, they're going to, quote unquote, have this talk. They'll say, oh, this talk went so successful, blah, blah, blah. Watch, mark my words. This talk was successful, blah, blah, blah. We're going to have the next talks. The next talks are going to be scheduled, in a couple weeks. The next talk in a couple weeks. And then they're going to do their strike.
Coincidentally, the dome they're talking about building over the U.S. won't work either. And our partner of Canada that was always a part of that, they're iffy. Mm-hmm. So that won't work either. We literally have placed all of our baskets in the basket of offensive weapons. We were the hegemon power. We never worried about people attacking us or protecting our people. No, we didn't invest in missile defense or any of that stuff like that. So it didn't matter. We were going to be our defense was going to be the offense, and the world changed, and it's just not like that anymore. So our two oceans are no longer protection, and we're literally in the book of Revelations in the Bible.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this in terms of the timeline. Don't quote me on the timeline. The reason I say don't quote me on that is because honestly, I'm gonna tell you this. I don't know. But I'm gonna tell you this. And I just saw this report. Well, I'm gonna share this with you all. Because again, you don't get reporting anymore in these numbers. This has to go through Challenger because Department of Labor and Statistics is offline. just like what you have with CDC and everything else, unfortunately. So this is CNBC. Layoffs in January were highest to start a year since 2009. Challenger says, this is published today, about less than 3 hours ago. From Jeff Cox, U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs for the month, up 118% from the same period a year ago and 205% from December 2025. Why? Why are these numbers looking so ridiculous? Because you don't have verified or a veracity of reporting. You don't have these numbers. They're not they're not accurate. They're not sustainable. So really, you don't have authenticity. So layoff plans hit their highest January total since the global financial crisis, while hiring intentions reached their lowest since the same period. Outplacement firm Challenger Gray and Christmas reported Thursday. U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs for the month, up 118% from the same period a year ago and 205% from December 2025. The total marked the highest for any January since 2009. While the economy was in the final months of its steepest downturn since the Great Depression. This is just what a outside source is able to confirm. You're never going to get these confirmations from the government. Do you see what I'm saying? You're not going to get these confirmations because the government is not going to provide numbers. Here's the craziest thing. At the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires.
So there are people at the powers that be that are looking for another world war to pull us out of this depression.
No, it's not to pull out of depression. They're looking for another world war because they're trying to reduce numbers. Think about this. If you're only hiring 5,300 people, that's United States wide, right? Out of a total of over 300 million people, supposedly. Over a total of about 140 million people, supposedly, that are in the job market still. Those numbers are abominable.
You cut your citizenry and take these people off the books.
Yeah, you got to take people off the books. I hate to be so cruel or
clinical.
Yeah, clinical is about right. But you have to think about this. If you're a nation that is dying, if you're a nation that, yeah, it is morbid. I'm sorry, but you have to think about this. We're now here at a time to where if the Most High doesn't rescue us, we are cooked. And again, this is just from statistics that a private firm has to produce because they've had a long-standing reputation of mirroring what the Bureau of Labor and Statistics used to report that they don't report anymore. Or they used to report, but obviously those reports are no longer reliable and valid. Outplacement firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas is the firm. With the recent narrative centering on a no hire, no fire labor market, the Challenger data suggests that the layoff part of the equation could be stepping up. They're firing everybody, they're getting rid of everybody, and they're not hiring. Generally, we see a high number of job cuts in the first quarter, but this is a high total for January. Andy Challenger, workplace expert and chief revenue officer for the firm. It means most of these plans were set at the end of 2025, signaling employees are less than optimistic about the outlook for 2026. Well, what do you think that means? Oh, yeah. This is definitely, you focused on, you got to get off the bad news, because the bad news, nobody's getting hired. Your statistical chance of getting hired is astronomical. Getting hired is literally like winning the lottery at this point.
So in terms of our people, the love of money has to be supplanted by the love of our people. And we ought to operate like that way. Ubuntu, that's how we're going to do it. Because when you want to destroy a living organism, you cut off the circulation. And our circulation of what economic resources we have to do is going to have to flow through our community and be recycled through our community. The one cycle dollar's got to die from our communities to cent. We have communities, so it's being us. I mean, can a nation be born within a day? Well, it's going to have to be born in us in order for us to sustain until we get the land, the promised land. So we have to change. It's good that have opted out of the menu that's happening here, because we need to turn to each other. And again, the love of our people, the love of Israel, has got to supplant the love of money. And we're going to have to totally decouple from Babylon, because Babylon will take us down with it.
Yeah, it surely will. It surely will. And the reality is, as this thing continues to keep moving and pressing forward, we're now starting to see, it's like this. We have like literally zero chance in this unless the Most High makes a way.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that we have to think and say and act this way, but this is where we're at. I don't know about you all, but I've been stressing this. Africa has opportunities. It really does. But we're going to be coming up out of here crying. We are, because I know a lot of our people still believe that this place is going to get better. It's going to turn around. It's going to, do this and do that. So Cindy Lou, we're praying for you also. We're praying for a lot of our brothers and sisters. We're working in the background to get some programs established. We have been doing that since November. We're working on that actively.
It's literally the Most High's word against the American dream. And if we still plug into that dream, as George Carlin said, yeah, it is a dream. And not seeing what is written as the prophecy leaps off the pages, we better be on the Most High's program, and we better be for our people. And these artificial constructs between us, this FBA and all this stuff, we have to diaspora. We all have to get together. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just want to show this right here in this article. It says here, to be sure, if employers are stepping up plans to furlough workers, it hasn't been showing up much in official government data. Your government data is gone. It's gone. So now you have a trust issue because you don't have trust in this data. Planned hiring dropped 13% from 2025. It was off 49% from December. Those are astronomical numbers. Challenger data also can be volatile and not correlated to official statistics. However, filings with the Labor Department in January under worker adjustments and retraining notification regulations indicate more than 100 companies have given notice of significant layoffs. They're not going to tell you how bad this thing is.
We're listening to the orchestra playing on the Titanic.
It is. It is. Don't worry, everything's fine. Just wait until we roll out our our AI servants. Exactly. Minnie says, I used to think we had no place to go for help, but we have Africa. Absolutely. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing to understand? You realize that this is a fight for the continent that the Most High has already given us? And our brothers and sisters want us there. Open arms. You can't make this up. Open arms.
Ibrahim Traore in that ADDI, I understand it. He was talking. They showed him speaking. You always got to wonder because of AI, but they showed him on that thing speaking, and he's saying that the when we were gone, that there were people in Africa just praying for us year after year for our welfare. They didn't forget us when we left. That was the thing. So I don't know if that was AI, but it was touching, whatever it was, saying that, hey, we never abandoned you like that. That there were people hurting for you, even as you were gone. There were people. Well, the Bible, they said it talked about crying out for your children that were gone, and he said that literally happened.
And the thing is that you have to understand, on the continent, those were the areas that we had left. And Jacoba did a great job breaking down those tribes and those tribal areas that are there, because in Sister Shanda's interview with the bishop, and you had a bishop that was very hardlined, right, against Israelites. Now, am I an Israelite? Yes. However, I'm a follower of the way. I'm the follower of who? Yahushua HaMashiach. To be a light unto all the nations. Thank you, the King's Daughter 7888, for the gift. Hallelujah. The bishop that was there on Sister Shanda's interview had stated that he was supposed to go to another country, but this was during the time of COVID. And because of that happening, he went to Ghana, that was the alternative. But when he went to Ghana, he started to understand. And that's when he realized he was an Israelite. Because he could see the culture. And I always laugh because I ask people this. Do you want to know who's on those flights to the continent? Do you want to know who's on those flights to the continent from or going over to West Africa? Those flights have more of them folks than they do us. And them folks were, you know, the I would say the fake ideas and Mormons. Why is that?
They want to be a new wave of settler colonialists.
It's not a new wave. They've been there for a minute. It's not a new wave. They know who they are. The Gentiles know who they are. I work with a lot of our Ghanaian people. They know who they are. They know that what they understand, the survival game is they just have to give up. Well, it's too much. I can't, even if I know who I am, they got me in an arm twist. They have me in an arm lock. I can't do anything. So what? We know that we're the people. We know we're the children of the Most High. We know who we know. Even the naming ceremonies. We know the ceremonial bathing. We know how to administer priestly rites. We know all of this, which they do. They just can't say who they are, and they can't say what it is. So then we just go around and we label things. Oh, that's spooky, spooky, spooky. Oh, that's witchcraft. Spooky, spooky, spooky. Because why? Because for us, the intent is to make sure we think that everything that's African is spooky. Everything that's African is witchcraft. Not everything that's African is of Hebrew or has a Hebrew custom. Now, not everything has a I would say righteous Hebrew custom, as we saw with I Show Speed and those folks that were utilizing, familiar spirit. Don't trust me, they still have them there, so you have to be very, very careful. But those that understand the righteousness portion, this is why for them, look, they were easy prey when it's like, hey, we're going to give you your white Jesus. It's easy. It was easy prey. You can't do anything anyway. You either accept this white Jesus or guess what? We're going to ship you on over to somewhere around the world. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. Sister Barbara, she says, I hope they don't try to recolonize Africa. I think they may be in for a rude awakening. They're in the midst of their awakening. Africa actually is in the midst of their awakening. This is why they do have, again, the troops on the ground there in Nigeria. For that reason, again, alone. And that is because the troops on the ground represent let me show you this, because I want you to understand. I want you to understand how this duplicity works, because they don't truly tell you how this works. You just have to see this to your face. Okay, let me explain this to you. All right, listen. They all know that they're Israelites, right? You have Israelites that served what? Wood, and then you have Israelites that served what? Stone.
Stone. Yep.
Okay? Now, the Israelites that served stone, they still know of Yahusha. They know who of Yahusha is. They know that there had been a fulfillment of their curses because of the rejection of Yahusha. The ones that serve stone is because of the fact that they just think about this. We have the same thing right now. If you really think about this, you have the same thing right now. Do you really want to follow Yahusha? Well, I don't know. What was Yahusha telling us to do? To be a light unto the nations. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's not even Yahusha's law. That's the Most High's law. But what Yacoba was telling you and explaining, you now have a lot of our people, and I get it, that they had been so broken over this system of oppression that they're just going to say, you want to know what? I don't care about what the Most High's law is. Well, then how can you be a hearer and follower of his word if you're not going to follow everything? Well, that's just between me and the Most High. And then what ends up happening? Then that sentiment gets fomented, and then other people and other people and other people. And then you have a situation come on out to where you have somebody coming through and invading. Oh, well, guess what? We don't believe that either. All right, then we're amenable with you. Sounds good. And then you have a situation, because remember, this was very dynamic. We did, a lot of our people during the Spanish Inquisition, a lot of our people did come from out of Europe. We settled where? Near our ancestors with our families. But we didn't have the greatest of relationship, right? We were, excuse me, by and large, not as amenable to the Muslim faith. We still wanted the faith of our forefathers. So we still knew of Yahusha. So when the Catholics came on in and did all the other converso activities, yes, even in Ghana and West Africa, they just didn't have an opportunity to do that in the more interior parts, because that was definitely very Muslim orchestrated. There were two distinct pincers regarding our people. And let me tell you what you're seeing right now today. You're seeing the same practice being utilized. Well, I thought that they're just targeting Christians. Remember, they're just Christians. Well, this kind of destroys the narrative. Dozens of Muslims massacred in Nigeria for refusing to join jihadists, says governor. Uh-oh. This is Makuochi Okafor and Atali Mitchell from BBC. So it's going to have a slant, but I'm going to tell you this. Dozens of people have been killed in a ferocious shooting attack on two villages in Nigeria's western state, Okwara, after they refused to surrender to extremists who preached a strange doctrine. Why is that? Because here's what they're not telling people. our people are beginning to wake up. Wait a second, you're trying to give us this Islam stuff, but didn't it say in Islam that, you know, if you don't know, ask a Yahudi?
We have a situation where we had a unique relationship, a covenant relationship with the Most High, and it was supplanted by the religions. And both of the major branches of these religions, they all enslaved us. So we're coming back to that relationship with the Most High, where we already know they say the gospel that we deliver to the Gentiles. That's like whispering in a room. You talk to the person. By the time it gets back around the other side of the room, it has no relationship to what we actually told them. So now we're getting back closer to what the Most High wanted in us and wanted us to help destroy the world, be a light and restore to that relationship, the intimate relationship he has with our people. And that's a threat. And we're brought together. That's going to change the whole game when we are take our life from under the bushel and we tell them what the relationship with the Most High, which was our purpose. We become that light, and the glory of the Lord is starting to rise upon us, and that's a threat to everybody.
Exactly. Because what they don't tell you is that there's a phenotype to these extremists, and they are of Arab descent. All day, every day. See, if you're not on the ground, if you hadn't really witnessed that, and I was able to witness that, so I could actually testify firsthand knowledge. That's the extent of it. You have on one hand Christianity, which is then pumped through with other denominations that they come through with their charitable works, right? And then that they come through with the olive branch, and then on the other side, they come through with the sword. Why? Because they're showing you how they deal with our people because of the hardening of our hearts. I'm praying. Do you all understand what I'm saying? Do you all? Maybe this is too deep. It may be too deep. Minister Rick, do you see what I'm saying? Is that that too?
No, I see exactly
deep?
what you're saying. The most high, the whole enterprise from Eden was to restore a relationship. The religion began back, the first progenitor of religion, and I believe this is just me, you can look it up and things like that, the Most High was Cain. Cain in the garden. He brought the first religion because God had already established the parameters of the relationship. When sin first entered the world, and Adam and Eve, their action was camouflage. Hide from the Most High. They put greenery on themselves. And the Most High established, he slew animals and covered them with skin. This is what the Most High, you cover blood is what covers sin. That was established. So when it came for a time for Abel and Cain to bring offerings to the Most High, Abel brought an offering suitable to the Most High. Cain brought a salad bar. It already had been established that no, greenery doesn't get it. So a loving God said, well, just bring me what I asked you for. The spirit of religion rises up and murders his brother. And that's what religion does. Religion is man's idea about how man wants to approach God, as opposed to directives, the relationship that God has told you, set the parameters of his relationship to man. So all the religions are murderers. So now God is trying to pivot us back to the relationship that came to bring life and give life more abundantly,
Exactly. And it's so you have kind of a soft, right? It's a soft one, a soft idea, and then you also have, a then you also have a more punitive one, right? And that punitive one, look, you are what? You're either destroyed by policy, right? Dark sentences, or you're going to be destroyed by the sword. We have been destroyed by policy and dark sentences in the Eurocentric religions. The Arab religions have been destroying via the sword. All use the sword. It's just that when the sword is used, they try to use the sword, especially when it comes to the West, via policy. Well, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And I like, actually, it's funny how the Most High is showing us all this, because we're getting the front row seats. We're getting the cliff notes of how this is all going down. It's just that if you don't know how the Most High is moving, you're going to look at everything and say, oh, this is just normal. And then when it's not normal, and then a more drastic action occurs, then people are suddenly reacting to, oh, this is not normal. Something is happening. Something's going on. We haven't been in an age of normalcy. Look, I don't think we've ever been in normalcy per se, but the period of some sort of normalcy ended in 2019, right? It wasn't
the illusion
necessary.
of order is even gone now.
Yes, exactly.
Some semblance, they say some semblance of order. That's all out the window.
Exactly. His brother Garth has said one is overt and one is covert. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. That's it. And it's funny that we're now bringing this together because, as I had stated, these groups, they're not just in a vacuum. They get Western-backed funding. Remember the other day when these Malayan troops they were defeated by Ukrainian and Western-backed terrorist organizations, terrorist groups. That was not a coincidence. We shared that on this channel. That was about 7 or 8 months ago. We shared that on this channel. They were having the Ukrainian flags, and it was literally terrorist organizations.
Well, that's the problem reaction solution playbook. They create the problem. They fund the problem. They bring in there, create it, and try to bring about a reaction that's to their liking, to what they desire. But they create the problem. So of course they're funding these groups.
So the reality really is this. What happens next on the continent? Because again, you're seeing that, well, it's not just a Christian problem, it's also a Muslim problem, and it's now an Arab problem that is now, who's controlling this?
God's people against all the other principalities who are aligned with Satan.
So now people are seeing this come to pass. All we're doing is, look, we're just showing you everything that's happening. That's all we can do. We're just here as witnesses. That's it.
We're going through the period when Jacob gets his groove back.
Yeah, because look, they're trying to find fault in Judah, but none shall be found. So here we are during this time as they're trying to continue to find fault. And all we're saying is, no, we're seeing how this system is working. So here we are.
Well, we
Here we
pray
are.
that on the economic front that the Most High will swim the axe head back to the axe, put things in our hands so we'll be able to do the things, have the resources to do the things that He's asked us to do. I remember Q2A early on. I knew that was of God and has been of God, but we're getting the opposition that's commensurate with being in line with the Word of God. So I'm praying for an economic miracle. I've got to dig deep myself, but we absolutely that container was something, and now we have to take it to the next level. So we just pray for the Most High to make His strength perfect in our weakness, that we can pull this thing off.
We can and we will. The Most High is good. I want us to remember we're serving awesome Elohim. We are, yes, Sister Barbara, we are blessed to be alive in this time. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's not the best time, but it's an interesting time, because think about what we'll be able to say for the generations that come after us. Think about what they'll be seeing. How did you all make this? How did you all do this? Look, I know that. Go ahead.
The harder it is, the more glory the Most High gets, because they won't be able to say, you won't be able to take, nobody will be able to take credit for this, but the Most High, and I guess that's a great thing. That's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. This is all the Most High's glory through His Son Yahusha HaMashiach, Yahusha. And this is where we're at. Like I always look at. I believe the scripture is it's in Exodus chapter 14, where it said, "Look, take heart, because the Egyptians that you see today, you will never see them again."
My God, Father, yeah.
The Egyptians, I'm just paraphrasing. It's in Exodus.
Yep.
Exodus chapter 14. And when people say, "Oh, you have compassion," I do. Think about this. You didn't know that you were a prisoner. Not many people understood that. No, I am a U.S. citizen, and I was born and raised here, and I was this and that, and then you start to understand the complexities of that. Oh, you better look at Dred Scott. Why do you think they're trying to go after this 14th Amendment? And then that opens up the door for Dred Scott. And then, yeah, keep talking that. Keep talking all that noise.
Well, they never repealed saying you were 3/5 of a man.
Nope. You see what I'm saying? All they did was they just created the fact that we technically we're not free. We've just been basically kind of pardoned for the most part. If we were actually quote unquote free, then we would have been provided the opportunity to be recompensed, and that recompensation or the compensation, I would say, you have to be brought back to where you were first stolen. You can't talk about being compensated. The funny thing is, I laugh when but there when I look at these stories of our young men and women that are older and they leave and they get out of the prison system. And when they're out of the prison system, and this was an AI generated thing, I think, I had to laugh, but when I looked at this, it was talking about this person that had been released. And it said, and of course, since he was released, he was able to get a settlement of a couple $1 million. And I laugh. I laugh because I'm like, wait a second. They put all this stuff in your face of FBA and all this other stuff. As I had stated this, the only reason that they want this FBA thing to happen is because if you understand how recompense happens, you cannot be recompensed while you're still technically in prison. It can't happen that way. Once you are returned to your soil and you are given your title, your name, your identity back, then you actually have a name to name yourself as a plaintiff.
Well, the whole game is to go from slavery to serfdom. We were entities under slavery that were owned by people. Maybe an institution might own us, but serfdom is being enslaved to the land. The Tsar in Russia, they freed the serfs in Russia. The same Tsar Nicholas, one of the Nicholas, at the same time the so-called slaves were being freed. And what that means, so if you go from slavery to serfdom, they're tied to the land. So the FBA movement is to imprison us in this land. You're a slave to the land and you can't go. And that's what serfdom is. And that's what the separation.
Exactly, because technically speaking, when you're back in your land, then you have the legal recourse to get your money back. You have the legal recourse. It's the legal realities. You can't be here and say that you want to be. Look, y'all understand, they're literally, the plan to collapse the dollar. We knew that this plan was going to happen. If you didn't know that they were going to plan it, if they were not planning to collapse this dollar, then I don't know what to tell you. As soon as we woke up, as soon as we were waking up, that plan to collapse the dollar was already in full motion. Oh, these Negroes are waking up.
You don't get free by owning land in the prison yard.
Nope. And then when the prisoners leave, there's messages to the Gentiles. This message is to the Gentiles. When the prisoners leave, somebody's going to have to take the place of the prisoners.
The prison industrial complex collapses when the prisoners leave. You got to get somebody else to prop it up.
Yep. Someone else will be taking the place. Those who lead into captivity shall be what? Shall go into captivity. They just didn't want to. I think it's not that they just didn't want to see this coming. I think they know that this is coming. They understood that this is coming. But again, unfortunately, this is a foolish nation. That's what the word said. I didn't say it. The Most High said it. I'm just going to continue my best to let you all know while you still have time. But I can tell you this, the window is closing, Gentiles. The window is closing. Because I'm telling you, once we're gone, it's not going to happen. They'll never leave. It's just that, they'll close their eyes. Close their ear. No.
Seems the ones that are seeing it are the ones crashing out.
Mm-hmm. Once it happens, they're gonna stop doing that. You want to know why? When they're gonna stop doing that? When they wake up and they see that T-1000 staring in their face. Dun 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 dun. That's the Terminator and Matrix all right there. And people act like they didn't know. No, they gave it to them in entertainment. They had them sign the contract. They had them in agreement.
Predictive programming.
Mm-hmm.
The base operating system being put in through the lollipop, so get the infrastructure built in for the transmission and storing all this data documents. We gotta the grid has to be built up to support all the storage of everything about you. So the prison industrial state needs the grid for these data centers. That's not so you can use your credit card better and communicate better. It's not for that.
And what is the date? And what is that doing? It's also destroying their land.
Yep.
With all the chemicals and everything else. So I laugh because I don't know, maybe that was about them and them finally getting out of, I don't know, their captivity after that 1,000 years. Honestly, who knows? You know, maybe I think it was funny. I'm gonna have to rewatch The Matrix again. Since I'm off, y'all gonna have me like rewatching that thing. Let me see what the person was trying to say.
You have to revisit our history from 1865, the progress that the so-called slaves out of they had 12 years until the compromise of 1877. That was the time that they had to reboot the system. That was the system reboot. I'm looking at it now till they brought in the Jim Crow and all the other laws, but the system, it took them 12 years to reboot it.
Oh yeah.
In that 12 years, we made more progress, had more land and everything like that. If there ever was a time for us to have the American dream, that was it.
That was the Nadir.
When they rebooted the system.
Yeah, that was the Nadir of the South. Yes, you had a gold standard. The gold standard you actually believe it or not, at this time, you actually had the greatest parity of African Americans at that time than you did right now. So you actually had a more viable economic environment for African Americans. No, this what we're dealing with doesn't hold the light. And what they were mad about is that if you actually take a look at what was going on, and then they try to say, well, segregation was bad. You want to know who it was bad for? Segregation was actually bad for them because they were not really able to be readily employed. Remember, we were doing all of our services and we were getting paid for our services. We didn't have no middlemen. We didn't have any bosses. At that time, they were in trouble. Remember, they'll tell you, it's a lot of poverty, a lot of sharecropping. Yeah, for some of our people, for them, it was a lot of their people.
And they try and gaslight it that where we are now is the best we've ever been. It's the best it's ever been for us, and it's an absolute lie.
No, it's not. Where we're at now is actually one of the worst that we've been. It truly is. It truly is. If I pray that we would have more people providing more scholarly work and research regarding the period is literally called the Nadir of the South, the Nadir of the South. And that was your post slavery / Reconstruction era. And they didn't know what to do because remember, I don't think a lot of people understood this. You had, so even though you'd have like your Devil's Punch Bowl incidents and things of that nature, that was true, right? So you still have your Devil's Punch Bowl, but for a lot of our people that were very much, that worked together, that was very enterprising, that understood how to build and operate and conduct business, we were doing things. So when 1877 passed by, and our people started to understand, oh, we need to now start getting on out of here. We actually did bring some money and funds from the South. People weren't just, we weren't disparaged per se, but we started to see the opportunities begin to lessen more and more. So
they started to retilt the playing field.
Yes, that's when they started to reset things. That's when they started to then have, peonage and everything else. And no, we couldn't put money in a bank because even at that time, banking wasn't for everyone. Do you see what I'm saying? Because even America's monetary policy wasn't it. They were still heavily recovering from the Civil War, and you had a lot of people that just were not interested in, another potential relapse. So remember, it took about World War One and then World War II. Oh, okay, everybody's on board. You even had Negroes fighting. Okay, we should be okay again. That was their position. Now, when we were able to, I would say, be in a better position, yes, they moved the goal again. And the goalposts continued to move because the idea wasn't to ever have a reset of, being on a playing field. You actually had actual representation of the Negro community, the Black community, the African American community that could actually be able to talk and speak without any type of diplomat or control, right? So when people say, oh, these Epstein files and stuff like that, well, trust me, they probably have files on our folks that have been in Congress and not acquiescing to these different policies that they're supposed to have, especially towards that Eastern Mediterranean nation. So nothing. So you had a more pure policy that was there. That policy is not there anymore.
Well, we were able to establish, to a certain time, we were able to reestablish our African family structures during the time of our ascent. And then the government systematically worked to break those up. Which just put us in our state. Because our very family structure, even in the midst of all this, still allowed us to go up. And that's the thing. So they had to deconstruct the family down to the very relationship between the Black man and the Black woman. So I'm saying so now we're really building up from the ground.
Oh yeah, and to be quite honest, this was supposed to be a legacy of assimilation, right? Total assimilation, but the reality is that failed and it backfired, and it really backfired from their end. And why that backfired was simply because when they were like, oh, we could do this and we can have Obama. Remember, as soon as Obama was elected, that's when Trump went crazy. For real.
Yep.
and now
It triggered the overseer class.
yes, it did. And now here you are. Now you're seeing the culmination of it.
But the facade was off. They showed us the reality. We needed to see the reality because of the deception of integration, which actually has been disintegration of our structures in our community. So once the band-aid was ripped off and you saw the true nature, I mean, number 47 is the default.
Well,
white man, he's the default.
well, and the reality is that now they're trying to clamor to disassociate themselves from this particular image. However, they're not doing a good job of disassociating themselves. You see what I'm saying? And that's what it's great that we're staying out of this, because remember, if we try to say anything or do anything, right, then we're always going to get labeled with something. That's the reality of this.
Well, they could unify around oppression to us, which is the only thing they ever unified on.
Exactly. And then when that happens, then they're going to be able to say, well, it's their fault. It's this and that. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this on up. It's been almost 3.5 hours, and I'm glad. I thank the Most High that my voice was able to kind of.
You're sounding better now. That's praise y'all.
Yeah, I'm sounding better now, but I still do need to rest. I can't really can't push myself in, a day back. But yeah, go ahead, brother Rich.
I just thank for the dialogue on the family with the Christian congregations and things that I had associated with being around here. It's really an online it's an online group of believers that are really my association with the Most High. So I cherish this time we're able to talk and share information in the community. And thanks again for allowing me on your platform this time. And I just want to urge us to push forth and really push this initiative in to get this land for this hospital, and just believe in the Most High to empower us and just to do it and get it done. So thanks again, Karis, and you be blessed in your family as well.
All right. Thank you, Brother Rich. All right. Well, yes, family. I thank the Most High. He gave me that chance to rest a little bit. Yeah, I'm still about 80%. So I do need to get some tea and kind of rest my voice and continue to rest. But sometimes you do need to rest, especially in a time where we're seeing a lot of things happening. And we're seeing so many things happening really so quickly that we may not really understand, the I would say the brevity of things. Sister Betty, thank you again for the gift. I want to make sure I acknowledge that. These things that I state, they're very controversial. I'm not here as a huge platform. I don't have a huge channel, a huge following. I don't. But I think the Most High, that He allows me to literally punch above my belt. I laugh because the Most High always kind of puts in my heart the old Mike Tyson video game, Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And I laugh because that was the very first video game that my dad has sent my brother and I when we were younger, when we were children. And you know, in that video game, you do your training, and then you go and you box the many opponents, and you started to go up the levels when you started to understand how your opponents reacted to you, so you could react to them. And you didn't think that you would do much damage because, to be quite honest, you weren't very versatile. You could only stay within a certain parameter. And to be quite honest, this is where the Most High has a lot of us. And I used to be very frustrated with that. But then I realized that he has us doing exactly that. The Most High has us in that particular corner, in that particular space. We're not getting knocked out, but we have to stand the ground that he has given us. Because if we think that we can do any more outside of the Most High, then we run into a trap. We run into folly. And that's where we as a people we've hurt ourselves time and time again in these particular constructs. But I'm going to tell you this. It's good news because we see the Most High moving. You may not see it in the intricate things going on, but the Most High is moving. And you know the Most High is moving when you start to see and understand how these other nations are reacting. Yep, little Mac. That's right, Garth. On the 8-bit. All right, family. Well, most time willing, I'll come back on QTUA tomorrow. See if I can make it in time. I think we have a QTUA health minute show tomorrow, so we'll take a look. If I don't see you tomorrow, then most time willing, obviously, I will hopefully see you all by Monday. Most high willing by Monday. So with that said, continue to be blessed and take the name of Yahusha with you wherever you go. Because greater is he that is within us than he that is in the world. And let me tell you this. You will not have any accusers on you when you're operating in love. That's literally how you defeat the enemy. Did you all know that? That's the key to this matrix. That's the key to the system. I know it's a little deep. The Most High loves us, and we were very, very disobedient. We were wicked, and the Most High still loves us. So imagine if he can love us. I'm just saying. I'll leave that teaching up to Yakoba. All right. With that said, family, shalom, salama, tiyame shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.